Hello, EFR 513 students. What we're going to talk about today is EX07, example large data set analysis, uh, one, and we're going to talk about the key. So the first question says, run an analysis to see if there is evidence that male students that say they see themselves as science person um, or not have different demonstrated math scores. Report your findings with a t-test and a box plot. Okay, so for the assignment, there's two variables in the HSLS High School Longitudinal Study of '09 that address this issue. So the first one right here is the math scores. So these are theta math scores for these ninth graders. And the next one is this one right here, and it's ninth grader sees him or herself as a science person. And here's our outcomes. So how would you find these variables? Well, you have to know the code book. This is one thing about large data sets, that you got to get familiar with the code book. What's in these data sets? What can you use? And there's no easy way to get around that. For myself, if I'm interested in the data set, I'll often just print it, and when I got time, I'll be reading through it and I'll be marking variables that could help me. Now, our data set's in Word, so you can also do Control H and search for keywords. Like what if I'm interested in girls in science? I can search on those key terms for variables that have those things in them. Okay, so we see what we have here, that we have strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and missing. So we got this issue of these two, 1 and 2, are some form of agreement, and then 3 and 4 are some form of disagreement. And then we have a missing value up here, -9. So we don't want that involved in any of our calculations. And then we have the student's sex, either male and female. And so these are the key variables we're going to work with, these three variables. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to larger data set and create a data frame of just these three variables. Okay, so right here in my, after I load the HSLS High School Longitudinal Study, right? Say that's loaded, and so then I'm going to create a data frame right here, and it's analysis 1. That's what I'm calling it, and it's data frame, and I'm going to create a data frame out of those three variables. And notice I'm subbing from HSLS. Okay, so that's the main data set I'm using. And again, we've read that before. So there's instruction in prior assignments of how to read that, or if it's open already. And so I'm picking those three variables, and that creates the new data frame. So when I run that new data frame, I get it down here. So here's my new data frame. So now note, this is very important, that the column names now have HSLS in front of them. Okay, so I'm going to use these out of the new data set. I need to employ those names in the data set. So what we have here is the math scores, the person, and then their sex, either male and female. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the dimension of that data frame, because we don't get to see it all, and it has 21,044 rows, and it has 3 columns, which sounds good. It looks just fine. So now I'll create a file with students who agree that ninth grade sees himself as science person, and female and male. So this is the key line that we have to work at. This is like a where statement in SAS. Okay, so what I'm calling it, I'm just calling it group 1, and these are going to be the agreeers, right? So, so analysis 1, that's my data frame, and inside the key thing is this which. Like in SAS, it's where. Here in R, it's which. So from that data frame, our 3-variable data frame, we're going to ask that uh, we want the 1 and 2 for S person. For the person, we want the 1 and 2, and that's agree, right? That's some form of agreement right up here. And we want the sex equal to 1. That'll give us the males. And then it's very important to put the comma here, because that's going through the rows, and then we have the closed bracket. So this is the command. This is the command we'll use a lot in doing analysis in large data sets. It's a very important command for us. Okay, so that gave us group 1. And now we want group 2, some form of a disagreement. So here and here, we see now we have 3 and 4. So what does that translate to? That translates to right up here, 3 and 4, some form of disagreement. Because I'm doing a t-test between those who agree and those who disagree. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run that code. And so that creates 2 files for me. Right here. Run that code. It creates 2 files. So when we look at the first file, that's some form of agreement. So we see there that the variables only have 1 and 2 for S1 person 1, right? So that's sees themselves as science person, and we only have 1s and 2s for that. That's what we want. And notice they're all sex equals 1, which is males. When I look at the second variable, I could just go attributes here as well. So I'm looking at the second variable. I see now it's 3, 4. 3, 4, and it's still just 1s. So now I'm going to run a t-test to compare the 2 groups. And what I'm after is the mass scores of each. So I'll go ahead and run that. And that gives me the t-test. And then I'm going to run a box plot. So here's the code for a box plot, right? You search on box plot, and there's the code for a box plot. And we get the box plot out of the assignment. So when I'm looking at the key, this is what the first question of your assignment should look like. So I'm bringing in the code, and then a little bit of the output, so we can see the output along with the code. Okay, and then in the end, you write a t-test, run a t-test. So here, right in here, I see here's the APA for that t-test. Okay, so I want you to write the APA and then the box plots below. Now the second part of this assignment is that I'd like you to now conduct a similar study using the same math, okay, and 2 similar type of variables that you select from the report, and then you're going to do a t-test on them. So, and when we ran it, we did the person sees himself as science and sex. Find 2 other variables here in the analysis and conduct your own analysis, okay, of what you're going to run. So that's the assignment. And there's a little thing at the end here, talks about subsetting your data, and specifically the which command as well. So again, a very important command. We'll be using that like for the final project when you're doing your analysis project and the like. So this is number EX07. Okay, good coding, and have a nice day.